week 6 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few running backs I have as sleeper options this week. The first guy, DJ Dallas of the Seattle Seahawks. So we know Rashard Penny's out for the year with a broken leg here. Now DJ Dallas coming into the mix maybe as that second string running back behind Kenneth Walker. But I don't think Walker right away is just going to go out there and get 25, 30 touches a ball game as a number one bell cow. A couple seasons ago, we saw DJ Dallas fill in when Chris Carson was hurt and Rashard Penny banged up as well. And he had a couple decent ball games in PPR leagues, anywhere from 10 to 13 points. I remember he was scoring, a decent receiver out of the backfield. And I think that's the type of role we're going to see him used in over here in Seattle. A couple plays out of the backfield to get on third downs. Maybe a few drives to start off by himself. But if you're in a deep pinch, especially with the bye weeks and some injuries, he's available in 90% of fantasy leagues. The next running back is Tevin Coleman of the San Francisco 49ers. Tevin Coleman last week had a monster ball game in his return to San Francisco. And it definitely surprised me too, because Jeffrey Wilson Jr. in the same game ran for 120 yards. So the Panthers got gashed by this 49er offense and running game. So week 5 at Carolina, he carries 23 yards, a touchdown, and 3 catches, 44 yards with a touchdown. So we know he knows Kyle Shanahan's system. We know a few seasons ago he left in free agency to go to the New York Jets. And obviously that didn't work out. But Coleman, maybe in this ball game at one of his other former teams in week 6 here at Atlanta, he can make a few things happen. This Atlanta defense isn't good versus the run. Gives up the 11th most fantasy points to running backs on the season. And if this ball game gets out of hand, then Jeffrey Wilson could use this game. If it gets out of hand, Tevin Coleman could be a decent option. I'm not saying he's going to go out there and score 21 fantasy points like he did last week, but he obviously had a role to a certain extent last week where he had 11 touches and found the end zone twice. And like I said, he knows Kyle Shanahan's system. So right now, if you're in a pinch, Tevin Coleman is a running back I have as a sleeper this week. And the third and final running back I have as a sleeper this week, Rashard White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the last 2 weeks here, we're starting to see more playing time for Rashard White. And he's making the most of the opportunity with the small playing time. Week 4 versus Kansas City in a ball game where Tampa Bay had to throw a lot and play catch-up in that one. 3 carries, 6 yards, a touchdown, with 5 catches, 50 yards, and a fumble loss on a kick return. And then week 5 versus the Atlanta Falcons, 5 carries, 14 yards, 3 catches, 28 yards. So right now it looks like he's getting anywhere from 7 to 10 touches per game here is Rashard White. And this week here in another ball game where it could get out of hand early and often, where in the second half we could see White get a big workload at the Pittsburgh Steelers if the Bucs go up a big score and they want to rest their starters a little bit here. I think Rashard White, if you're in a desperation mode or need a running back just at the number 2 spot or even a flex option that you think could put up 7 to 10 fantasy points, I think White's a decent sleeper option. The last 2 weeks with the 14.60 and the 7.20, not horrible numbers, but not great either. So right now, if you need a running back sleeper, I think White, with the way this game script's going to go, he could get a bigger workload than usual. So that's a few running backs I have as sleepers here for week 6 of the fantasy football season.